We're at PDF 2008 with Ellen Miller, Executive Director of the Sunlight Foundation, and we're doing a retrospective documentary on the conversation generally from 2003 to 2004 to now, politics, the internet, and also how PDF has tracked that in an interesting way, you know, so you've been following this for a long time, and surely you had some idea where this is going, and you've seen what's happened that maybe you thought would happen, and you've also perhaps been disappointed about what doesn't happen. And talk about stepping into the fray, Ellen Miller, Sunlight Foundation and everything. Talk about that progression.
Well, my entrance into this world of the intersection of politics and technology really came at my very first PDF conference, which was the very first PDF conference, in which my longtime colleague Mika Sifry said to me, "Come, I think you'll find this interesting, this new world in which I'm working." And so that very first conference really just blew my mind, because I'd always been in the business of transparency, of political information. But when I put two and two together, which is the new technology and the power of the internet to both distribute and create it, and the ability of the internet to make it much cheaper and faster to produce this information, it really was the seeds of the beginning of the notion of the Sunlight Foundation. I mean, fast forward for me 3 or 4 years later, and what we really decided to do was to use the internet as a way to redefine what disclosure about what our government officials do and how they do it and who they do it for. And so that was, you know, sort of seizing and riding this wave and understanding what this wave could possibly do for us is the raison d'etre for Sunlight.
When Dan Gilmore was with us a few minutes ago, he talked about one of the most important things out there, unexpected really, is the APIs, that people can now use these APIs to sort of Lego together something that's quite powerful. And of course we immediately thought of Sunlight Foundation. And what's quite remarkable to me is essentially 4 of you got together and dreamed it up.
That is exactly right. 4 of us got together. I was initially approached by the co-founder, Mike Klein, who wanted to figure out, you know, how do you get more information into the hands of reporters, journalists, and bloggers to figure out what's going on in Congress, to provide more investigative tools. And the first thing that we figured out was a lot of the information wasn't even digitized, much less it didn't have any kind of, you know, APIs on it, so anybody could pick it up and, as you say, Lego it together. Right. And so we decided that our first goal was really to digitize information. That meant taking paper records and giving grants to organizations like the Center for Responsive Politics to create digital records for this. Now, once that was done, and of course it's an ongoing process, but we launched maybe 5 or 6 new websites, including a huge one on federal grants and contracts. Then the question is, although we built it in at the beginning, how do you get the information out of their data silos and into the hands of people who know what to do with it, and know how to put it on maps, or know how to add votes to it to do vote campaign finance correlations. And so our technology team was really formed to provide technical assistance to our grantees and to others who are not our grantees to learn how to do the technological, you know, whiz-bang things that really free the data and enable it to be used. And as I said earlier, we want to redefine what disclosure means, and it means taking it out of the hands of experts and putting it into the hands of citizens, putting it in the hands of technologists who can be very creative about this. And so that creativity from a technological point of view, that collaboration, that whole notion of the open source world in terms of disclosure is really a hallmark of Sunlight's work.
How much do you think you have digitized?
We digitize a lot. Of most of the available information that Congress now reports, is now required to report, we've digitized a lot of that information. There are more things we'd like to see reported. I mean, we can't digitize what's not reported. So we'd like to see, you know, and a lot of this we'd like to see reported in a faster format or faster requirements. And so we work both on the lobbying side, which is to get more information reported and to get it done faster and to get it actually reported online. A great story of how Neanderthal, the Senate is, they still report their campaign finance reports on paper. Now we know that every single campaign keeps them on a computer and prints them out, hands them over in paper to the Secretary of the Senate, who then hands them to the FEC, and then 6 weeks later makes them available to the public in raw form. That, of course, is ridiculous, but we can't dislodge a piece of legislation that would change that. But we're spending a lot of time and energy trying to do just that.
I'll ask you one more question on you. You know, you got to go. Do you think there's a place for a people's lobby, a war chest of the people working with real lobbyists in Washington with totally transparent accounting, putting their money in a trust fund, paying them upon seeing the videos of the conversation? Do you think there's a place for that?
Well, I think there's potentially a place for that, but I think more of your fundamental question is there a place for people to lobby on issues of how government operates and the notion of transparency? And that's an unqualified yes, for sure. I mean, we have discovered that millions of citizens, I think 80% of citizens we surveyed at the beginning of the Sunlight Foundation, want greater transparency. They want to see members' calendars, they want to see their campaign finances, they want to see the lobbyists they meet with, and they want it in real time. They don't want it 6 months ago, they want it now. And so the notion of citizens gathering around these issues and lobbying themselves, or even potentially paying so-called professional lobbyists, I think all of that has real potential, and it's the net that makes it happen.
Yeah. Well, as you know, Ellen Miller, we consider Independence Year to be a distribution channel for your data out there. So thank you so much for everything that
You're very welcome.